Shouts out Big Steve.
Shout out Michael Bisping. Early tease for UFC des Moines plus PFL. What we do here is we look at some early odds for the UFC as well as the other regional odds that are available for the week. PFL 4 is back, which means some extra opportunity to make cashola. Did we make cashola last week? No, we did not. So let's get into it, see what went wrong, and see what we can improve, right? Because I do hate losing. Ending a month that I was grinding on a loss. So let's start with KSW, right? This is my favorite regional promotion, best ROI hands down last year. It's easy for me to get reads, even on low level slop. And it took me less than a day to tape it, right? So what went wrong? The first bet I made was Michal Turinsky, $283. Just sprinkle over half a unit dollars lost. I have bet this Denis Gorniak before in his KSW debut. And, he died on me after a couple of leg kicks. So this time I bet Michal, who's a kickboxer by trade, plus money. He closed at favorite. I thought a much easier matchup. Ultimately he was taken down by Gorniak and he was pounded out. Should have seen that coming really, because in his debut, Michal was also taken down by a bare knuckle boxing bum. And he was lucky to get out of that mount and knock him out. But yeah, bad bet. Honestly, bad bet. From here on out, I didn't lock anything in. I was on a honeymoon weekend, and honestly, I forced a lot of bets, especially on the regionals, which serves me right. I really shouldn't be. 7 years in, the only times I lose is when I cram and force and not really focus on other things in life, So I asked for a few more minutes to the wife on the honeymoon to lock some bets in, and they all lost. So $283 down. I liked Katzpah versus Flaminas. I thought his pass was a split decision. Go figure, he won a split decision. And then the other two I liked was Eddie Hall and Arthur Shepaniak. Shepaniak, when I taped him, he was $2.50. Obviously, I didn't have a Bet365 account. By the time it opened up on BetOnline, he was barely an underdog. I kind of talked myself out of it, but I said, let's circle back and see, if there's still value on him, because I didn't think Igor should be that much of a favorite at all. And never circled back. Arthur knocks him out in round one. There you go. And Eddie Hall, I have no excuses at all. I said this is a dog or pass, even before the line went crazy. I know Mariusz Pazinski well. The first ever Big Brain MMA podcast I did 3 years ago was a KSW card, and it was Mariusz as a huge underdog to Matela, a middleweight coming up, and Mariusz knocked him out in round one. And go figure, Eddie Hall knocked him out in round one. I let noise get into my mind a bit. People are like, it's gonna be rigged for Mariusz. Eddie Hall is not an MMA fighter, but I know better than that. So $283 lost, one bet, one loss. Regrets, obviously not playing Eddie Hall, not circling back to Artur. It's my favorite promotion. I said always focus on KSW whenever it's on, but it is what it is. We go down to my second favorite promotion, Octagon. All right, Dominic Hamburger, Samuel Kristofich. In my opinion, this was a bit of a hard one to tape and to lock in bets. A lot of closely lined fights, which a lot of people will argue is good. Not for myself, right? Only fight I taped was not taped. Pardon me. The only fight I locked in was Ion Sudu versus Krzysztof Jotko, and that was the same. I didn't really feel it. It was one of those ones I taped the night before and locked in the night before on my honeymoon. Apparently, I didn't watch it. Apparently, Sudo won round one. I heard him in round two, and he still lost a clear decision. That makes sense. Octagon is the worst when it comes to damage. Reminds me of the bet a couple of weeks ago I lost on Bogdan Juric versus the other Serb. Bogdan was just holding on to him. If that was a UFC, it would have been a 30-27. So that's another $280, a little bit more than half a unit. And, what's my regret, really? Not focusing on Hoyat. I liked him. He was an underdog. I liked Andrei Kalashnik. He was also an underdog, $2.20. Both these guys won via round one KO. I didn't really circle to it. I taped it. I was like, all right, I'll come back to it. And I never did. And then they won. And the fights that I circled back to, I ended up passing on. And it's just annoying, It's one of those weekends. I also like Dominic Hamburger. I felt like he was a bit mushed. I don't really like him. The guy was almost knocked out many times in round one, came back and won by his own knockout. So, again, one bet, one loss. Ion Sudu, my big regret is forcing that right before bed. Didn't feel amazing about it. Some people get away with that. I never do. I never get away with it. Unless I have good reads, shit doesn't end up my way. Alrighty. So let's go to Cage Warriors. This is not even on here for some reason. It wasn't on Tapology. Let me just Sheehan. Let me just look it up. Let me look at the comments while we wait. Moines Audio, thanks for always being here at a late night session for me in Australia. Danny, I've cashed 9 out of 11 UFC cards since joining the Discord, ready to make a 10. Well, Danny, I don't know if you're bragging or if you're giving my Discord a props. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hope you're enjoying the Discord. Kiwi Brew, thank you, my friend. Welcome. Where are the blue light blockers? Well, they're in the other room. I don't know. It's not that late. Hopefully my head's not going to hurt after this, but I didn't feel like putting them on. Alrighty. So, the Cage Warriors card. And this is the last bet I made on my regionals. And Sheehan versus Burlington. All I had was another pick and fight. Justin Burlington versus James Sheehan. I was passing on it, and I said to myself, look, because I don't make many bets, I need to make more money. I said, I would rather pass and regret than miss out. I'd rather pass and regret that I'd rather play and regret that I played it if I lose money than pass and regret not playing a winning bet. So again, James Sheehan, right before bed, I lock him in. Same time as Sudu, 2 for 2. And man, watching that fight, if someone told me that James Sheehan was going to be winning 3-0 up against Justin Burlington, and then he was finished in round 4, I'll tell you, you're crazy. Because James Sheehan, better IQ, better durability, better cardio. I watched 5 fights of each of these guys. I know them both extremely well. And I was like, pick 'em fight. It seems close, like they're similar level. But I'm like, man, if James Sheehan can win one of the first 3 rounds, he's going to win 4 and 5, right? We know MMA, it's very volatile. Fighting is volatile. Human beings are volatile. For some reason, James Sheehan was more gassed than Justin Burlington. You know, he 10-8'd him in one of the rounds, dropped him. I think he was 3-0 up. And then he jumps into a guillotine. Justin Burlington guillotines him. And that's the first time James Sheehan's ever been finished and the first time he's ever been submitted. So that one just felt like the world was punishing me for forcing 3 really bad regional bets. Like I did not expect to go. I know neither of them felt amazing, but I did not expect to go 0-3. Right, so I'm like $900 down to start UFC, and I don't have the best slate for UFC, I'll be honest. So I'm like, I got a lot to dig out of here. I'm still on my honeymoon. This is Sunday now, waking up, watching a little bit of UFC before we check out of our hotel. But otherwise, the Cage Warriors, what's my regrets? I don't really regret James Sheehan. I had a good read. He was 3-0 up, whatever. The only regret I do have is passing on Scott Harvey. One of my friends liked arms, and I kind of talked myself out of it. When I saw how much he was rinsing him, I was like, yeah, nah, I got to turn this fight off. It's really upsetting me. Alrighty, so let's get to the UFC now. This is, $900 down from 3 bets, 0-3 on regionals. Usually never happens, but we've got a bit of work to do, right? So the first bet that we have is, $750 on Jacqueline Amarim to win, 170. She was in a parlay with Evan Elder, so won peanuts, $170, but it's something. And I said, look, I have a good read on this fight. I'm going to take advantage. I'm not just going to leave that and move on. So I parlayed the under 2.5 rounds, which went up to $1.40, a little bit better than what it was. I thought that was a lock. And I parlayed it with Damon Blackshear. I just didn't think Alatang was going to win, right? 3 rounds of striking, and Damon Blackshear still won 30-27. So I won $240 there, half a unit. So we're on $400. And at this point, I'm happy. I lost 900 on the regionals. I'm up 400 on UFC. If I stay there and I just lose 1 unit, I'm happy with that. Because I don't want to lose big on the last day of the month, right? And nothing really here. Then I had some early Jimmy Flick under 1.5 rounds, plus 150, which I mentioned. I completely hedged that out. I wasn't overly confident if Flick couldn't get a sub. I didn't really like Schnell's KO upside, and I did not think he will get a triangle on Jimmy Flick. I really liked Flick moneyline, and when that fight started, Flick was rinsing him, and obviously he went over. I won like $16 from my hedge. And after round 1, I live bet Jimmy Flick. I bet 300 on him. It was minus 200. I thought he clearly won round 1. I thought he was going to... The takedowns were obviously coming easy. Gets a takedown in round 2. He's rolling up until, 2 minutes? I honestly thought he was going to cash my under and he was going to win when he was locking up that arm triangle choke. About halfway through the round, I was like, come on, man. The arm triangle is there. The flick... It was a mixture of arm triangle and Van Prue. And... he got out of it. And after that, he went for a stupid guillotine and it was all over. It was all after that. So that frustrated me. So now I lost $300 on that. I liked Alice Karov, round 1. I mentioned with Dog, didn't play it. Randy Brown, I liked the under, didn't play it. I had the under 1.5 in Michelle Pereira as well, right? Didn't feel amazing about it. I hedged it just so I had half a unit to win, a unit. And I tipped this one out to the Discord, so that one sucked. Obviously, Pereira came in completely whatever. But at least I didn't donate to the money line. I liked the Nama. I thought he would win. I was going to live bet him, but it was still minus 200 after round one. I ended up playing the under on the Zhang fight, $1.66. He went up a lot of money on the over. Clearly square over action. I won half a unit there. And then it all came down to Carlos Prates. I broke even now, up and down, up and down. And I have $750 on Prates, right? That's a unit and a half. It's probably way too much. If I waited like I waited with Pereira, I probably would have talked myself out of it, right? I never get reverse CLV'd. Whenever I get reverse CLV'd this year, 3 for 3, I've lost every bet. I know some people think reverse CLV doesn't matter. I agree. We just saw with the Zhang over under 1.5 rounds. Tons of CLV on the over. The under hits easy. But, I knew Gary was very live to win a very weasel-like decision. And if I waited, I would have had a much better line on Prates. I probably would have played like half a unit, leave the rest for live betting. Not only that, I might have talked myself out of it, like I talked myself out of a Pereira play, right? There's a reason I wait for my plays last minute. But I'm like, fuck it. I need to make $800 to get rid of the $900 regionals. And I've been here before, man. 7 years, like 9 out of 10 times when I do that, I lose big, So around Jimmy Flick, $300 up, $400 up, I lose 1 unit. If Prates loses, I lose, 1,500. And yeah, it starts and, 2 rounds in, I just leave the TV. I'm like, yeah, Prates is done. Is fighting like an idiot. He's not letting go. And I don't need to watch the rest of this fight. And then I leave and I come back and I hear that, he almost knocks him out in round 5. Luckily, I watched that. Luckily, I wasn't watching that live because I might have lost my shit. I might have jumped out of a window because watching those first 3 rounds was very frustrating. And then if I watched that failed at a finish in round 5, then I might have lost my shit. So, yeah, 1.6K lost on the last week of the month, which was going to be a massive month. It was going to be another 6 units back to back. And now I'm up $900. So not even 2 units for all of April, right? Which profit is profit. You got to look at the positives. I'm up 1,400 for the year, which is disgusting. That's 3 units for 4 months for myself. Very disgusting. But I was down 3,500 halfway through February. Almost 7 units, almost 8 units. So we came back, we're in profit, and I'm going to have a good May. That's the goal. And I'm going to have a good August, June, July. I'll be in profit, but, just hate when I make so many mistakes. That's the only thing. But no one to blame. Reeds is still great. My gut is still solid, which I hate. I wish my gut was wrong on Prates. I wish my gut was wrong on some of these other bets, but, it's not. All right, Jono. Disappointed in myself for not trusting my gut. Yeah, you got to trust your gut, man. Too much background noise. Yeah, background noise, the gut. It's all wrong. It's all bullshit. Every single person in the world was on Prates, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Kiwi, I chased Prates to get even or get even worse. So dumb. Yeah, we all did it, man. We all did it. The worst thing is when, I hate to sound like a big shot, is when now I'm thrown into the same bucket as those Twitter touts that, played 5-6 units on Prates thinking is the next guy. It's like, I'm just as good as them. I might say that my gut is strong, my reads are good, but I made the same bad bet, so I'm no better. But that's all ego. You got to leave your ego out the door. All right. But anyway, the goal, if anyone gives a fuck, the goal is by October. I'm giving myself a lot of months, is to up my units to $1,000. And, by that point to be on 20,000 and then make 10 units in the last 2 months and be on 30,000. I think that's a respectable year. And it's very achievable, right? But how are we going to achieve that? We're going to achieve it by doing well on PFL and UFC this week. So I'll do PFL first. We had odds for a few days actually. And yeah, then we'll do the UFC. We have totals. I haven't looked at odds. I haven't looked at totals. So let's get into it. Alex Polizzi versus Rafael Xavier. I know Xavier. He's from Octagon. He's a striker. Let me just sweep up fightodds.io. And We'll see what we have. So Polizzi is a bit of a wrestler, a grinder, quite hittable. Oh, I'm just wasting some time as I whip up the odds. Polizzi minus 200. That's a bit out there. Xavier, I think he just went to a split decision with Simeon Powell, who we'll speak about. Correct. Just lost a split. He's not a bad fighter. He did lose to Powell Langer. That was a bad look. Who is another grappler. And now you cannot play Alex Polizzi at minus 200. That's all I'm going to say. Rodrigo Nascimento, Abraham Badley. Nascimento makes his first appearance outside the UFC. What are these odds? 2 grapplers. Wow. Nascimento is the slight favorite. Wow. All right. So Badley, really good cardio, really good wrestler, really good mobility for heavyweight. He just lost to Slim Trabelsi, split decision, another grappler, Olympic wrestler. But a lot of people thought he won that fight. I personally thought he might have been robbed. Wow, that's a doggo pass for me right there. Rodrigo Nascimento is not that guy. Rodrigo Nascimento is not that guy. Don't you forget that, kids. Solvian Coley versus Marcelo Nunes. What do we got here? Coley, slight favorite. Not much. That's interesting. Nunes is not really that great. He's a grappler that gasses out really badly. Let's have a look. Wait, is this 205? Wait, this is 205, which means Nunes is dropping down. Wow, that's cool. Light heavyweight. Wow, maybe that's why he's not a massive underdog. He's got a finish over Jordan Heidemann. He's got a finish over Danilo Marquez. Means absolutely nothing. All these finishes, Beron Lewis, Dylan Porter, means zilch, 0, all bums. And he was knocked out by the one and only Maurice Green, the crochet boss, right? Let me see what Coley's been up to. Maybe he should be a bigger favorite, honestly. He just beat the shit out of Hamza Salim. That was 2 years ago. He hasn't really fought. He got submitted by Luke Trainer. Maybe they think Nunes can submit him. I don't know. Let's move on. Linton Marcel, Oleg Popov. Of course, in the first round, we get a rematch. Or one of the most boring fights ever. This PFL is the worst, man. Popov's going to be a massive favorite because he beat Marcel easy last time. Cool, $1.29. Whatever. Let's move on. Disgusting fight. Alexander Romanov versus Tim Johnson. Speaking of disgusting fights, both physically and visually and in every way possible, Romanov makes his first appearance outside of UFC, after fighting his foe, Rodrigo Nascimento. Tim Johnson, another fat guy. What are the odds? Romanov, $1.18. Wow. It makes sense because Johnson is old and he's chinny and he can be taken down. The tape on this card is going to be disgusting. It's going to be disgusting. Truly disgusting. Tim Johnson got finished by Vassell. I had him there. I was almost knocks out Vassell and then he gets mounted and instantly finished. I mean, Johnson should get ran through by... If Romanov can't run through this guy, then I don't know what to say. Carl Albergson versus Simeon Powell. All right, what's Carl been up to? Carl's been jumping around from promotion to promotion, right? Powell got knocked out by Jacob Endo, right? That's not aging well at all. Endo just lost to Tom Breeze, for goodness sakes, in FNC. Right, so he's coming off 3 finish losses. Right, Yakshimuradov knocked him out, Impa knocked him out, and then Tom Breeze submitted him. Yeah, it's a shame because this guy had potential. He's only 28 for light heavyweight. He had potential, but they threw him to the wolves too quickly. Obviously, you should be beating Tom Breeze, but Tom Breeze is very good for one round. Simeon Powell, man, he that split decision to Rafael Xavier, also not aging well. Carl Bergson, let me see, what's he been up to? Lost to Carl Moore, lost to Grant Neal, beat Yakshimuradov, that's good. Beat this bum, and then lost to Chuck Campbell on Superior Challenge in his home country of Sweden, I'm pretty sure. That's bad, man. That's bad. Chuck Campbell, what is he, 42, 43? Doesn't say, but he's 40s. That's sad. Powell's going to be a favorite, no doubt. Let me have a look. $1.63, not bad. These odds are competitive. Now, the tape's going to be disgusting, but the odds are competitive. Alrighty. Carl Moore versus Carlos Jr., right? Shoeface. coming off that massive ball drop against Alex Polizzi, where he was beating him and then he just gassed and made a bunch of errors and lost. Just pathetic Brazilian IQ. And yeah, he's going to take you down and try to submit you, or he's going to gas. Carl Moore had a decent performance against Corey Anderson, for the Bellator title. He was a decent sized underdog. He held his own. All right, that was a big step up for him. He beat Alex Polizzi. Before that, I bet him there. It was a little bit sweaty. He should have made it much easier. He was the better striker and the better grappler. He also rear naked choked Carl Albrechtsen. I know I faded him there. Carl almost knocked him out, and then yeah. What are the odds here? Carl. I'm interested in Carl if he's the underdog. Where's he at? Wow, now he's slight favorite, trending to slight favorite. You know what? These are. I don't mind a lot of these odds. These are interesting. I think I might need to dig into this card before the UFC. Honestly, it's getting me excited. If you could see my nipples right now, but you can't. Alrighty, Valentin Moldanovsky, Sergey Biolestini, Russia on Russian crime. Sergey is a big power hitter, explosive heavyweight, 29. Submitted Tyrell Fortune with a heel hook. I bet the under there and him and Sergey, and never didn't expect a heel hook. The guy's usually a KO striker. He went 3 rounds with Blagoy, showed his cardio is not as bad as people think. Valentin is obviously going to try and grapple him, but he's gassy too, man. Lost to Vassell, knocked out Delia. This is a shit show. Sergey, I bet this is going to be another pick and wow. Valentin is $1.67. Oh, I kind of feel like Sergey will pass. These are very good lines. These are very good lines. I'm going to dig into this. And we end up with Phil Davis versus Rob Wilkinson, right? I think Wilkinson is a slight favorite, right? It kind of makes sense, but not really. Because Wilkinson last few, right? He lost to Yakshimuradov. He barely beat Josh Silveira. His fights over Thiago Santos, Tom Breeze, Omari, who's fought a welterweight in UFC. It mean nothing. Phil Davis, what's Phil Davis been up to? Lost to split to Corey Anderson, and then he hasn't fought in 2 years. How old is he? 37? 40. Wow. Jesus. Getting up there. I guess they don't really think he's able to wrestle Rob Wilkinson. All right. And, we know Romero, Julius Anglikis, Carl Bergson. Interesting. Really, really interesting. I'm not really rushing to play Wilkinson in this line because I feel like he will not cover. All right, let's move on. That's a lot of good lines. I'm enjoying that. I'm going to tape that card. I'm in the mood, and it's going to be a rough tape, so I'll get to it. All right, let's go to the UFC, and we've got some totals, so we'll tackle both, right? We'll speed it up a bit. I'm already at 23 minutes. Juliana Miller, Ivana Petrovic, right? Miller will pass. You know me. I'm not going to play someone like Petrovic at this line. She's been barely winning in the UFC. Well, she didn't even beat Jamie Lee Horth. Right? Beat Lan Yang, which is like the worst woman ever. She usually comes on strong late. Right? That's why she has a lot of late finishes in Aries. Juliana Miller. She's on 2-fight losing streak. No shame in Hardy and Luana Santos' losses, honestly. Yeah, it's a dog or pass. What's the total? This card was going to be very good for totals, but we lost a bunch of under fights. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 160, maybe. That could be it. Alrighty. Dontel Mays, Thomas Peterson. No, thank you. Not interested. Not interested at all. Peterson, massive favorite. Yeah, I'm not going to play a guy that lost to Jamal Pogues at this line. Right, not interested. Not interested in taping either. What's the total? Hopefully big plus money. Yeah, +1, +2.4. All right. I think he correlates with Peterson. But Dontel Mays could knock him out and crack him. Let me just... Yeah, Shamil knocked him out. Yeah, Dontel has some power when he lets go. Yeah, disgusting fight. All right, Gaston Bolanos, Kwang Lee. Now, I liked the line on Kwang Lee for weeks, and I didn't tape it, and then my friend started playing it. Now, everyone's on Kwang Lee. And I taped it twice just to get a proper read. And it just feels like an LFA level fight that I'm not really interested. Yes, Kwang Lee probably has value. right? He's got good enough striking and power that he can compete with Gaston Bolanos. Bolanos is not some God's gift to kickboxer. He might be chinny too. And obviously, he doesn't have grappling. Kwang Lee has the grappling that he can use. He's got takedowns. He's taken people's backs before. He has rear naked chokes. I don't know. I just don't like just looking at Kwang Lee's career. Coming off 2 losses, Gutierrez, and getting knocked out by Long Zhao. And Gaston, I just feel like Gaston, he's got good get-ups, and he can strike. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm trusting my gut. I'm not feeling it. Let the public keep playing Kwang Lee. It could hit, it could win, but I'm not feeling it. Right? I'm done rushing stuff because of FOMO. So we'll wait. We'll see where the fight goes. I'm not. Maybe I even end up on Bolanos by the end of the week. Under 2.5 rounds is plus 140. Yeah. Both have finishing upside, but neither is overly dangerous, I'll definitely play the under. Yeah. I think Lee has KO or finishing upside, and I would say Bolanos has a little bit of KO upside. Marina Rodriguez, Gillian Robertson. That's obviously we know what the UFC is doing here. Marina Rodriguez, she keeps losing to grapplers, and they just keep giving her grapplers. Losing to Yasmin Lucindo is a bad look, and they're giving her Gillian Robertson. I mean, make of that what you will. Gillian Robertson should take her down. She couldn't finish her last 2 girls, Waterson Gomez and Pinero. The Pinero one was very frustrating. But let's see what the under is. Maybe it's a good under because of that. Barely plus money. Don't know. All right, let's move on. My boy Kiwi Brew. My address is somewhere in the state of FOMO. We got to leave the FOMO behind. Kiwi Brew. It's the FOMO, man. It's the FOMO. You always want more money. You're scared you're going to miss out on a lock, and then he ends up being the complete opposite. Danny, looking at Bolanos round 3. I guess that makes sense, but Bolanos himself is quite gassy, so I don't know. Alrighty. Azamat Bukayev, Ryan Loder. So it makes sense. This one stuck out. This is the other one that stuck out. I mean, Ryan Loder is not that bad. Massive underdog. I don't think Azamat Bukayev is that good, right? This guy went life and death with Dylan Budka in LFA, and he got hurt a bunch of times on the feet, right? Obviously, he has the grappling upside. His other wins, Lucas Fernando. I fainted Fernando with Almeida on Contender Series, who's a striker, but he has no takedown defense. Zach Reese, I like Zach Reese. I played him against Marquez and a couple others in Contender Series, but he's obviously a fraud when it comes to durability. Just might be chinny. And Chauncey Foxworth. What do we make of that? All right, so I have to look into it. I know from tape that Ryan Loder didn't really impress me that much when he was fighting Robert Valentin. But, he looked good, man. He looks, 33. He kind of looks like he's still improving. His last 2 wins, Omar and Shaban in tough, and Robert Valentin are 2 of his best wins in his career. So, maybe he's improving. He's a late starter. He only started MMA 2021. That's 4 years to get to the UFC. So, dog or pass, man. Dog or pass. What are the unders here? Could be generous. 2.5 rounds of pick'em. Interesting. I do think that if old mate, I think Loder has more finishing upside than Bukayev. Bukayev is just a sniffer. Alrighty, Yana Santos, Misha Tate. What to make of this fight? Has Misha Tate fought since she beat Panda, Julia Avila? No, she hasn't. In a year and 4 months. What to make? And Yana Santos, she just beat Chester Chandler. She beat the crap out of her. I regret that one. She was pick'em there. Completely covered and more. But, before that, losing to Rosa, Holly Holm, Aldana, beat Kellen Vieira, but she shouldn't have. I know a couple of people playing Misha Tate, but, man, 38 years of age. I don't know. I'm just going to say not rushing to take that one. I'm not even going to look at the total. No, I'm lying. I'm going to look at it. It's going to be massively juiced to the over. Oh, what a surprise. $1.25. What a surprise. Jeremy Stephens versus Mason Jones. What a fight. Who would have thought that 29 and 21 Jeremy Stephens will be back in the UFC in 2025 after going to BKFC, where I bet him against my boy Jimmy Rivera, and winning the title. Now he's back in the UFC. Who would have thought? And, Mason Jones, I always thought Mason Jones would be back. He deserved to be in the UFC. I mean, Mason Jones, who did he lose to? Ludovic Klein and Mike Davis in a barn brawler. He beat David Onama, and he was cut, just like that. Right. He should have knocked out Alan Patrick. I had so many inside the distances there and the no contest. That has to be one of the worst beats. I was thinking of my bad beats recently, and that has to be one of them. Yeah, he's back. Ultimately, this is going to be a slugfest, absolute slugfest. Mason Jones has beat some decent regional guys in Cage Warriors. Michael Pagani being the best. Jeremy Stevens, he still cracks. He's a bit old. What is he, 38? Yeah, I mean, this fight, massive favorite. I don't really like playing Jones massive favorite because he's still hittable. And he's going to be walking into Jeremy Stevens' overhand, but he's probably going to break him late. So under 2.5 rounds is $1.67. It's a hard click. They're both durable. And Mason Jones takes a while to get going, Usually late round 2, round 3, he finishes people. But dog or pass, yeah, I guess so. Danny, maybe a nice price on Jones' first ever sub. Maybe, my friend, maybe. Peos, live from NorCal. What's up, NorCal? I assume that's in America. Who knows? Cameron Smotherman City. So this one is the other one that the public likes, and I personally like too. I just didn't get a chance to tape it. I played Cameron Smotherman as a massive underdog against Hadley, and that's aging well. Hadley not a bad fighter. He's over there doing well in PFL. City's a guy that kind of comes forward. He's a bit of a homer. Will eat one to take one. Quite durable. Good cardio. Will grapple. Not the worst striking, honestly. Beat Garrett Armfield. Was a bit of a robbery, but that's still a good win. And lost a split to Ramon Tavares that a lot of people thought he won. So not a bad fighter at all. But should he be a favorite? I don't know. It feels like these guys are evenly matched. But this feels like the other public play. Plus 230, plus 130 for Cameron Smotherman. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to tape this one. This might be one that I miss out on. But yeah, dog or pass. Dog or pass pre-tape. That's all I can say. Let's see the totals. Totals. Under 2.5 rounds plus money. Yeah, makes sense. City's durable, but Cameron not really. But I mean, I don't know if City's going to knock him out. Anyway, Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos. Wow, so this fight was a pick-up once upon a time, and now Marcos is a big underdog, plus 180. I mean, that makes no sense to me. I mean, I get that, Montel is good. He's athletic. He's got power. He's meant to be a wrestler. But doesn't really fight much. Knocked out Damon Blackshirt, with one punch, which, I mean, that's going to age beautifully. Other than that, good wins over Julio Arce. And that's about it. Brent Johns he lost to. Corrales means nothing. Brian Kelleher means nothing. And he lost to Ricky Simone. So he's lost to 2 wrestlers. And, Daniel Marcos is just going to strike with him. I mean, it's dog or pass. I'm not. Montel Jackson at minus 200. I don't know. Don't know. Might be on this one. We'll see. We'll tape it. How does Montel Jackson... I think this Julio Arce fight is going to be good representation. Really good boxer. Nice hands. But a little bit chinny. I don't think Marcos is that chinny. So that's a good fight to watch. Alrighty, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod, right? 2 washed welterweights. As everyone knows, I love taping washed welterweights. My favorite. I think old mate is trending towards favorite. D-Rod, yeah, slight favorite. It makes sense. I think he's less washed than Santiago Ponzinibbio, but Ponzinibbio's out there still winning fights. So what are you going to do, right? What's the total? I don't mind the under, plus 140. I mean, Santiago just went over in his last fight, right? Let's have a look. Just went over in his last fight, but he still knocked out Carlson Harris. Yeah, went over by 43 seconds. No one knocked anyone out in the Muslim Salikov fight. He was knocked out by Kevin Holland. Also went over. I played Holland inside the distance there. Crazy price. Knocked out Morono. Yeah, this under has some value. The only issue is I think Daniel Rodriguez is still durable. And, he doesn't really knock out people, but he hits hard, man. I remember back in the day when he came into the UFC, I kept betting him inside the distance. Tim Means, David Grant. He was ripping Mike Perry. Knocked out Preston Parsons in the first. Kevin Lee couldn't knock out. Alex Morono, he probably should knock out. but he just couldn't land on him. Yeah, this seems like a typical Santiago Ponzinibbio war. If it's going to go over, you know you're going to be frustrated. You're just not. But I'd rather play D-Rod. I think he's much less washed than Santiago. Kiwi Brew. Getting run over by Gary is not aging well. Look, that fight looked weird. That looked weird, but what I will say is I watched it for the Prates fight, and he had a clean head kick behind the ear. So, yeah, we see Gary. Gary's fast, he's explosive, and he's good at those leg kicks. He's got a couple of knockouts with the head kicks. No, I said leg kicks, I mean head kicks. He has a couple of good knockouts. Alrighty. Reina Dorado versus Bo Nickel. One of the lads, Pirate, said, Bo Nickel has some value even at this price. It makes sense. I didn't refresh, but, Bo Nickel can keep this fight on the feet. He's got the striking to win. We've seen it against old mate Paul Craig. And we see, Dorado looking awful in round 1 against GM3 of all people on the feet. So I think old mate Bo Nickel can take him down. I think I can outstrike him in a boring decision. $1.30 though, right? Money's coming on him. Am I interested? Not really. The under 1.5 rounds is now plus 150, right? I think we might get some regression, right? People expected Nickel to knock out Paul Craig. He didn't. Maybe he can do it to Dorado. Dorado has been dropped a lot. He's been knocked out in both his losses to Anatoly. I know Anatoly is a savage. But, he's been dropped a bunch, man. He's been dropped a bunch. It didn't look too flash against GM3. Obviously, he only had one round against Holland. But, yeah, what to make of that fight. Speaking of fights that are, what to make of them. Corey Sandhagen, Davison Figueiredo. I mean, why is Davison getting this fight after losing to Peter Yan? Corey lost the fight too. To Umar. Completely forgot about that fight. I thought Corey was still on his 3-fight win streak. To Yadong, Marlon Vera, and Rob Font. I mean, I guess it's a bounce back for Corey, but he really should be fighting someone else. He just lost the title. Eliminator. Song is aging well. Rob Font and Vera, whatever, not so much. Peter Yan. I mean, he should beat Davison. Can Davison sneak this out? He fought much better than expected against Peter Yan, I will say that. But I mean, I don't know what to make of this fight. Whatever. Corey's a big favorite. Yeah, I'm not really into playing Davison Figueiredo in 5-rounders anymore, especially against someone high level like Corey. The over 4.5 rounds, it's very, very chalky. Very chalky. Can someone finish someone here? He finished Song Yadong with a cut. Yeah, I think Corey could definitely finish him if he lets his hands go. He could. As long as it's not one of those boring, patient Corey Sandhagens. Alrighty, that's it. We have Ryzen this week too, but unfortunately there is no odds on Bet365. So let's narrow in, let's lock in, and let's see what I'm going to tackle first. So for the UFC, I think I'll look at Juliana Miller. I already done bust on Lee, not a good read. Loda, I'll have a look at. Do I want to look at Tate Santos? Maybe. I'll look at this Smotherman fight. I'll look at Marcos. And that's it for now. As for PFL, I think I might just smash out the whole card, PFL card today. There's a lot I like. A lot of lines are sticking out. I mean, fading Polizzi at dog odds is sticking out. Nascimento Babli at dog odds is sticking out. Nunes Colby. I'm not looking at Popov Vassal, disgusting fight. Romanov Johnson. Oh, yeah, it's disgusting. Carl Bergson sticking out more. Antonio Carlos Jr. is sticking out. Sergey Bilosteny is sticking out. And Phil Davis, yeah. I'm going to tackle the PFL. I think Figgy will pressure the fight out of Curry. I don't know if you remember, but Figgy is very counter-based, my friend. Figgy likes to counter. Sometimes he gets aggressive, but he's a weasel. He's a negative point/counter fighter. All right, that's it. As you can see on the bottom, I'm not asking for likes and subscribes. I'm asking for comment your best bet. All right, let's give back. Let's all share bets. Let's all share leans like I have in the Discord. All right, it's you're only as good as your network. As I said, the goal is 10 units this month. Easy peasy. I'm dialed in. It has to be done. All right, I've taken a couple of months off this year, but this is the month of 10 units minimum. So let's get it. Peace out.